I still remember the knot in my stomach the day I got my first rejection letter. I'd poured 6 months into a manuscript of historical fiction, an intricate tapestry of Victorian London, market stalls, gravediggers, and a plucky young journalist named Maribel Thorne, intent on unmasking corruption in the city's fog-choked underbelly. I'd wept over every sentence that slipped free of my typewriter, agonized over each character arc, and sent the query to 15 literary agents in one fell swoop. When the first envelope arrived, cream-colored, my name in crisp Helvetica, I assumed it would hold the glittering promise of representation. Instead, inside was a single sheet. Thank you for your submission. While your prose is evocative, we don't believe the market is ready for this type of narrative. I dropped the letter as if it had burned me. The pages fluttered like wounded wings on my coffee-stained rug. Over the next week, 10 more rejections arrived, form letters and personal notes that all echoed the same refrain. No market, not quite right, good luck, but not for us. Even my critique group, kind souls who'd rallied around my first 50 pages, offered gentle admonitions: trim the exposition, deepen the minor characters, pick a more relevant theme. In the face of all that no, I began to wonder if I'd been fooling myself. Maybe I lacked the storytelling spark, the literary alchemy to turn ideas into something agents and editors would bite at. I shelved my manuscript in a closet box labeled One Day and pivoted to Plan B, dive into my day job in the university's history department, where I researched 19th century urban economies and supervised undergrads on archival projects. Surely that was more realistic. 3 years later, I limped into the archives reading room, heart thudding. I'd been summoned by Dr. Elias Hartwell, the department chair, a man whose silver beard framed a perpetually furrowed brow, and whose reputation for academic rigor was matched only by his impatience for frivolity. "Miss Davidson," he said without preamble, gesturing at the chair opposite his oak desk. "We need to talk about your progress." His tone suggested he'd rather be anywhere but here. I cleared my throat. "Of course, Dr. Hartwell. I'm eager to share my updates." My days had revolved around that dissertation on street vendors in 1870s Manchester, quantitative models of supply chains, demographic shifts, price-fixing scandals. Yet in his eyes, I still saw the echo of that old verdict, not quite right. He opened a manila folder bristling with notes. "Your proposal on the informal economies of Victorian markets submitted last semester was thorough, but your data points lacked a central thesis. I hope your revisions address that." He tapped a highlighted paragraph: "Correlate transactional records with regulatory archives to demonstrate the municipality's tacit support of black market vendors." His margins scrawled: "Expand on municipal motivations, why connive rather than clamp down." I nodded. "Yes, I'm integrating the Board of Guardians minutes and supplementing with fire insurance ledgers. I believe their inaction during market fires points to complicity." I slid my revision plan across the desk. Dr. Hartwell leafed through it. His lips pressed into a line. "Make sure you interrogate the archives, not just report them. Show the why. Then we can talk publication." I exhaled, heart pounding with relief. At least here, my work was taken seriously. But even as I left his office, the sting of not quite right lingered. That summer, while my dissertation simmered, the university announced an ambitious capstone program in the Digital Humanities Lab. Seniors would produce interactive, multimedia final projects. Dr. Hartwell was initially skeptical. Historians weren't coders after all, but funding from a local foundation sweetened the deal. He appointed me as student supervisor, leveraging my archival expertise to guide teams in crafting interactive timelines, geolocated maps, and annotated primary source viewers. One Monday morning, I met with Team Meridian, 3 seniors, bright-eyed and nervous, in a glass-walled lab, bristling with monitors. Their project, a browser-based recreation of Liverpool's 19th century trade networks, linking port records, merchant correspondences, and shipping logs. They wanted to visualize the ebb and flow of coal, cotton, and contraband. "Dr. Davidson," said Amy, the team lead, cheeks flushed, "we're hitting a wall connecting disparate datasets. The port ledgers use archaic abbreviations, TN for transshipment note, for bill of lading, and the insurance records are organized by parcel descriptions. We can't map them." I leaned over their screens. "Have you checked the Gazetteer supplement of 1872? It cross-references those abbreviations with street locations. Also, the Board of Customs enacted the Marine Oversight Ordinances in 1871. Its appendices list the standard codes." My pulse quickened. I remembered parsing those very documents for my own thesis. They blinked at me. That's gold. We didn't know that source existed. Amy's fingers flew as she bookmarked my references. I smiled. Let me send you my annotated bibliography section on port documentation. Their thank yous felt like small payment for the thrill of real-world application. Over the next 2 months, I lived for these mentoring sessions, brainstorming visualizations, debugging narrative copy, guiding database normalization. I realized I'd forgotten how invigorating it felt to help an idea come alive. Meanwhile, my own writing project, the long dormant manuscript, had been gathering dust, but these sessions reawakened a spark. If I could weave together disparate primary sources, why couldn't I stitch together a compelling narrative for Maribel Thorne's Victorian world? Meanwhile, the students' prototype progressed interactive docking logs, zoomable port plans, clickable merchant bios. Then one afternoon, I got an email from Amy. Dr. Davidson, we just cited your 2018 article on port regulations in our final project. Full reference included. Your work made our cross-referencing possible. I blinked. No one had ever cited my unpublished manuscript. This was my first official citation in a student's capstone. My heart thundered, the old doubt melting under the warm glow of recognition. The final showcase arrived, a bustling hall where teams set up monitors and VR headsets. The dean gave an opening speech, praising the lab for bridging past and future. Teams filed presentations, a VR walkthrough of a cradle-to-grave ledger, an AI-driven chatbot for colonial correspondences, and at the far end, Team Meridian's stall, 7 screens displaying dynamic trade maps. I stood behind Amy as she launched the demo. Ports lit up as I hovered over them, shipping routes curved across the Atlantic, and clicking a dock number revealed a list of cargo logs. She scrolled to BL Bill of Lading, and hovered a tooltip popped up, citing Davidson 2018 with my article's title. I felt my pulse spike. The judges convened, a panel of faculty, community partners, even a rep from the city archives. They leaned in, whispered, and I saw Dr. Hartwell raise his eyebrow, nodding at the citation. When the judges announced the winners, Team Meridian took first place. I felt proud, but the real thrill was seeing my name in the bibliography. That evening, amid the post-show champagne, Amy found me. Dr. Davidson, you were the unsung hero here. Our citation gave us credibility. Thank you. She handed me a printed copy of the project, my article listed under secondary sources. I touched the paper, tears pricking my eyes. This changed my thesis direction, she said. You changed our project. Walking home that night, under gaslit lampposts, I realized something profound. The work I'd dismissed, my obscure unpublished research, had real-world value. I'd thought I'd never get published, that my writing belonged in a closet box. But here was evidence that my voice, my archival insights, mattered to others. At home, I brewed chamomile tea and sat at my old desk. The manuscript box still waited. I opened it, drew out the first chapter, and retyped the opening lines, London, 1872. The fog rolled in thicker than conscience. My fingers trembled as I wrote those words anew. I paused, then scribbled a note in the margin, cite chapter 1 in next capstone, and smiled. When the last embers of that university showcase died down, Team Meridian's victory, cheers still echoing in my ears, I slipped out into the crisp night, clutching Amy's printed capstone project, as if it were a golden ticket. I'd been unsung, an invisible footnote on the margins of academia, but tonight I'd found proof that my work resonated beyond my solitary desk. My research could springboard new ideas, launch student innovations, inform real-world tools. Back in my apartment, I sat at my typewriter-like keyboard, Maribel Thorne's first chapter blinking on the screen. I read my own words, lines I'd once feared no agent would endure, and realized they weren't just practice. They were potent. And for part 2, I decided I would become both the scholar Dr. Hartwell respected and the novelist I'd once dreamed of being. 1. Publishing the article, securing credibility Monday morning felt electrified. I clicked submit on a new email to Victorian Studies Quarterly. Dear editors, please find attached my article, Market Fires and Municipal Complicity, a new analysis of the 1870s Board of Guardians archives. Based on years of archival research and recent digitization of customs ledgers, this piece argues for a reevaluation of municipal oversight in Victorian commerce. I exhaled as the email sent. This was the article Amy's team had cited, a piece once tossed aside when agents snubbed my fiction. Now it would land in an academic journal, with my name in bold. Days later, the acknowledgement arrived. Accepted pending minor revisions. Congratulations. I danced around my living room, nearly tripping over a stack of notebooks. At the next faculty meeting, I approached Dr. Hartwell. He peered over his half-moon spectacles. You submitted to VSQ? Bold move. Then, ever the stoic, he offered the slightest nod. Well done. Those 2 words from the department chair felt like a crowning achievement. 2. From researcher to novelist, revisiting the manuscript with academic credibility secured, I turned back to my fiction. I unearthed the box pages yellowed at the edges, my cramped handwritten edits tangled in red ink. For 6 years they'd been dormant, like seeds waiting for spring. I opened chapter 1, Maribel's breath misting in dawn's chill, the market's coal smoke curling around her, and read as though for the first time. I committed to a rigorous schedule, 2 hours nightly rewriting, and a full weekend day for world building. June, ever supportive, agreed to critique each chapter. Our apartment balcony became my writing sanctuary. City lights below, my laptop perched on the rail, tea in hand. I weaved in new details, an underground network of matchstick smugglers, an abandoned apothecary rediscovered beneath cobblestones, a secret society of women reformers plotting in the shadows. As Draft 2 took shape, I emailed a small independent press, Willow and Moss. Please consider my novel Maribel's Market, a tale of Victorian descent, for publication. A month later, their reply, we'd love to see a full manuscript. My pulse leapt. 3. The mentor's betrayal and reinvention. Just as momentum surged, I received a panicked call from Amy. Dr. Hartwell's archivist, Mr. Groves, just fired her halfway through her postgrad project. Cited mistaken data. She's devastated. Had I not taught them rigorous cross-referencing, this could happen to me. I realized scholarship could be as precarious as publishing fiction. I marched to the archives to confront Mr. Groves, a crusty man who treated the ledgers like sacred relics. He claimed Amy's team misinterpreted a fold-out table from 1875. I calmly reviewed their methodology, pointing out the correct ledger note we'd discovered. He grumbled and absolved her, but the mistrust lingered. I vowed to protect my students and my creative work alike with meticulous citations, open data, and transparent peer review. 4. Willow and Moss and the long road to publication. Willow and Moss asked for a meeting in 3 cities, New York, London, and Dublin, over 6 weeks. They liked my voice but wanted a tighter plot and more vivid character arcs. June and I spent nights agonizing over pacing, deepening Maribel's backstory, anchoring every subplot to the central theme of empowerment through commerce. At our London meeting, the editor, Sophia Ellis, leaned across the mahogany table. Your research backbone is strong. I want Maribel to feel like a living person, her heart beating beneath the corset. Add more dialogue that crackles. Show her failures as vividly as her triumphs. I nodded, heart racing. We hashed out revisions, sharper repartees with the corruption-laden alderman, a poignant flashback to Maribel's mother's assassination in London's East End, and a climactic gala where Maribel's exposé topples the city's mayoral re-election. After 2 more drafts and a final blow-by-blow read, Sophia sent the contract, a modest advance, a spring 2026 release, and a suggested marketing budget for targeted social ads and local history festivals. I faxed it back. Little did anyone know my fax machine sat in the attic, but it whirred faithfully to life. 5. Building the community, readers and researchers united parallel to the novel's revisions. I launched a companion site, Market Protests, a hub for primary source images, behind-the-scenes research diaries, and a forum for history enthusiasts. I invited Amy's team to post interactive visualizations, featured Dan's corporate workshop attendees for modern parallels, and hosted monthly live streams, Victorian Market Mysteries, Q&A with Claire Davidson. To my astonishment, subscribers topped 5,000 within 2 months. I received messages from high school teachers planning to adopt Maribel's Market as supplemental reading. A local nonprofit asked me to speak at a heritage event. A fan art contest sprung up, creative renderings of Dr. Hackworth's conspiracy-laden steam engines. My fiction and scholarship had melded into a community of curious minds hungry for more. 6. Publication day and the unveiling spring arrived, and with it, the launch of Maribel's Market. On release day, I donned a vintage-inspired navy dress and met June at an indie bookstore in Brooklyn. A small crowd gathered, history buffs, creative writers, past capstone students, even Dan clutching a tote bag, emblazoned with I read Davidson first. We sipped tea and flipped through pages glowing with brass-tinted illustrations. At 7 p.m., I took the podium for the reading, an evocative excerpt where Maribel confronts the city council in a cascade of righteous indignation. The room hung on every syllable. Then came the Q&A. Authors, scholars, genealogists asked me how I balanced fact and fiction. I spoke of empathy as my compass, every character inspired by someone real, every plot twist echoing an archival footnote. The applause was soft but sure, growing into warmth that felt like coming home. 7. Mentoring the next generation. A week later, I returned to the Digital Humanities Lab, not as a tutor but as a visiting novelist. Amy and her colleagues had secured grants to continue their Liverpool trade network, and they'd invited me to keynote their spring symposium on narrative and data writing history off the page. I stepped up to the lectern, reframing my journey from ghostwriter of municipal minutes to published author blending history and story. I concluded, if someone once told you your voice, be it fiction or scholarship, would never matter, remember Maribel's Market and the capstone project that refused to die. Research can become art. Art can inform research. And your words, yes, yours, could be the blueprint for someone else's breakthrough. The ovation was heartfelt. Alex, a senior, approached afterward. I'm rewriting my thesis on dock workers' memoirs now. You showed me research can be living, breathing narrative. I watched him stride away, retention in his eyes. 8. Full circle. From rejection to reverberation. Sitting at my typewriter-shaped keyboard that night, I thought back to that first sting of rejection. Not ready for publication, no market interest, stop dreaming big. Yet here I was, scholar, mentor, novelist, cited in student projects and in print books alike. My agent, whom I'd finally signed after Willow and Moss's contract, just secured international rights in Germany and Japan. My dissertation on millennial market economies was now under peer review in 2 journals. The anthology Global Port Cities invited me to contribute a chapter on Victorian networks. Maribel's Market sat on award shortlists, and most beautifully, the community I'd nurtured on market protests. Calm pulsed with conversation, experts, students, readers sharing discoveries and fan-inspired research. I leaned back, fingertips dancing on the type keys. The final pages of Maribel's Market beckoned, but so did new scholarly articles, speaking invitations, and the next capstone cohort hungry for guidance. The tapestry I once feared unraveling had only grown richer. And so, as I take a final breath in part 2, I see that every critique, every rejection, every whisper of you'll never, was a note in a larger symphony, one where my voice, at first soft and tentative, now resonates across fictional pages and digital archives, inspiring others to build their own bridges between research and story. Because the only true limit on publication is the courage to try again, and to invite others to cite your work, your dreams, and your conviction that every narrative, no matter how hidden, deserves daylight.